When every provider claims strong technology, service, and global reach, trust becomes one of the clearest ways to tell the difference. Today, Zach interviews TJ Henderson, Director of Global Client Development at NEI, for a conversation on trust, AI, continual learning, and what strong mobility partnerships require in a changing business environment. How do mobility leaders recognize the partners who can actually create lasting value? With his 20 years in relocation, TJ helps us answer that question now on Relocation Leader.
Prior to, I was with 3 other relocation companies. I've been in the business for about 20 years. I actually started out as a relocation counselor and had a chance to hold several different roles in account management, supply chain. So I think I have a very good kind of view of some of the different aspects of mobility, and which I think have positioned me very well to do what I do today. I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. I know you're asking the questions, but I just, I've only been with NEI now for 7 months. And I got to be honest, man, it's the best 7 months I've ever had. At that time, I kind of was feeling like, wow, could this be the fit that I think it is? And now 7 months later, I realized, yep, it absolutely was. Absolutely was. Everything about it for me, it fits me. And so, there's a certain way I like to engage with people. And NEI allows me to engage the way I like to engage. It's just everything about it. It's just a really good fit. When I go out and I meet different industry events and some of the suppliers that I run into, and when they hear that I'm with NEI, it's like their face lights up. It's like the reputation that we have with our suppliers is incredible. It is incredible. And me coming from a supply chain background, I've seen the other looks. I know what that looks like. It's really a good feeling to be with a company that's so well respected.
So you've been in the industry for a minute, quite some time. What really, in your mind, separates a strong mobility organization from maybe just an average one?
I think that a mobility organization or an RMC that actually has a set of values that they actually stand by and, aren't like reeds in the wind where they're changing based on, external factors. If they're very solid in what they do and what they believe in, it empowers the employees to move forward with confidence in whatever role they have, because they know what their company stands for. So, sometimes as far as, especially us being customer facing and client facing, the fact that we actually have confidence when we're speaking with folks and representing our company, it goes a long way in knowing exactly what our company stands for. So, and it lends credibility, which is really important to me as well.
Why do you think that's important to client side? When people are looking for relocation management companies, it's like, I can't really put trust on our procurement rubric. How do I convey that? In your mind, what do you say to that?
I've been with my wife for 38 years, so I don't know anything really about dating, but I raised millennials who are both unmarried at this time. So they tell me stories. And it's funny because I see the similarities between dating and the relocation world. It's like back in my day, it was really important to get to know someone, get to know what they stood for, get to know what kind of common values you shared. And a lot of times clients, for some reason, don't have the time, or that's not the number one priority. It's about, this or that. It's not necessarily about getting to know who they're potentially going to do business with and what they stand for. And I think that if we can kind of slow things down and impress upon our potential clients or customer base, hey, the relationship is very important. It's important to us. We want it to be important to you, because there are going to be a lot of things that we do that you're not an expert in, but we are. So the level of trust needs to be there. So the only way we're going to establish a trusting relationship is if we have a relationship. So that's really what I want to try to bring it to potential prospects and clients, the fact that relationships are very important to us. They mean something.
Yeah, I love that analogy. It makes a lot of sense to me because you got to know what you're buying, right? If you're buying AirPods or if you're buying a treadmill or something like that and it doesn't work, you just put in a request, get a refund, send it back. Harder to do with relocation management, right? And sometimes, I feel like our average client tenure is something like 12 years, right? And so if you're picking a 12-year relationship, you don't want to go into that blind. And you have to lean on, like you said, expertise for a lot of areas where maybe it's not your domain, and having that trust factor, the visibility factors.
I agree.
So when mobility leaders talk about relocation today, what are they asking about that they weren't asking about 5 or 10 years ago?
That's interesting because I think for the first time, mobility leaders are being looked at internally from their companies as needing a seat at the table. So they're being asked now, they're already involved with so many different aspects of the business. And now they're finally actually, well, some of them are actually able to sit down from a strategy perspective and holistically look at their companies and kind of use their expertise in the mobility space to, like I said, have a seat at the table and a part of that decision-making process. So I think what they're looking for from us as RMCs is, my motto is, what can I do to make you look better? How can I provide you the information that's going to make you look good in front of your bosses? Because, the questions come from all over the place, whether you're dealing with finance or total rewards or immigration or tax or whatever. So you got to be prepared, at least somewhat well-versed in understanding what the questions are and who to go to, somebody that you trust to be able to help you answer those questions. So I think maybe 10 years ago, it was just mobility was looked at as just a cost center that, hey, was preventing the company from getting their talent where they felt their talent needed to go. There was a stumbling block in between or checks and balances. And they still take on some of those elements because compliance is huge. But now, they're a partner at the table. So they've got to come up with solutions and they've got to be credible as well. And we want to help them bolster their credibility as they're talking to their other internal leaders and stakeholders.
Could you explain where some of these companies are trying to maybe modernize their mobility program? And maybe if you can spot any places where they're maybe chasing change without maybe enough strategy behind it.
So my experience has always been, for the most part, about compliance, cost savings, and customer experience. And it hasn't changed. Those are still fundamental elements to any mobility program, at least from the customers that I hear. And so now what the push is how do we integrate the current environment that we live in? By that, I mean the AI environment. How do we utilize AI tools and resources and strategy to enhance those three things? I mean, what can we do to utilize what AI has to offer when it comes to compliance or customer experience or cost savings? That's what the emphasis has been. And I think all of us are still looking for those answers.
How do you kind of coach buyers through, like maybe, even helping, because, we don't all start out expert judges of what AI could do or should do, where sort of the normal business processes that we've had for a long time should remain in place. How do you help them understand the landscape of these different business decisions now that technology is such a vast part of what we are trying to incorporate?
This is one thing we do know, or at least one thing I think I know, is that I've been around long enough to see fads when they come and go. And, in my opinion, this is not a fad. This is here to stay. So we've got to figure out a way to utilize it. And I'm not sure, in my opinion, I think that it should come from the RMC, in my opinion. We're the experts. We have insight into so many different elements and aspects of global mobility and talent mobility that we not necessarily should come up with all the answers, but we should be leading the charge, I think. I was at an event a few weeks ago speaking with a client, and it was interesting because, some people think that it's the company's IT teams that are supposed to be kind of solving this and figuring this out. They're like, no, that's not our thing. That's, mobility team. You should be driving this. You should be letting us know exactly what it is that you want to do with this. Mobility teams are looking at RMCs like, well, when are you going to sit at the table and join us and let's figure this thing out? I think that it's going to take a lot of involvement from different people, different companies, different teams. And I'm just not sure if what the appetite is for doing that right now.
I think there's a lot of, and we all kind of know this, or we've recognized when people are just kind of slapping an AI sticker on something, it's really trying to start with that problem because it's easier to just rush in and say, we got this tool, what can we use it for? And it's just the wrong way to go about doing things. especially when you're talking about relocation, you have all the compliance stuff is separate from the employee experience stuff, and that stuff is separate from the actual cost strategies. You know what I mean? And so like there are these interdependent systems that you're trying to balance. And it's like, is AI going to be helpful with that stuff? Absolutely. But then how? Like you said, we're trying to figure that out. And I think the best solutions will come from just accurate identification of the problems.
Yeah, I think that's a good approach to take. I think there's an opportunity, not necessarily for us to control the industry or direct the industry, but we should have, I think, much more influence than we do.
Now, how much of that innovation do you think is going to happen because maybe RMCs and their supplier network got together, put their heads together, versus more broader industry collaboration between RMCs themselves? Because personally, I mean, I'm not sure that the larger RMCs are even incentivized to get together themselves, or are they?
Probably not if they their market share is where they needed to be. But I think I saw a study here a while ago about the market share based on different RMCs, and that's the good thing about NEI. We're not trying to, we're basically putting our time and effort and energy into clients that are good for us, for what we do. It's not like, we're out there throwing anything against the wall to see what sticks. We're very strategic and targeted on the clients that we know would be a good fit for us and us a good fit for them. So, maybe this is something that, we find out our ideal client, what are they looking for as far as from an AI standpoint? What would they like to see? That might be, we may find out that our ideal client isn't really looking for AI solutions as much as we think they are.
It reminds me because the triple ratings for the international mobility came out, and how, we were fortunate enough to rate number one in on-the-ground supplier selection. And when you're trying to move people all over the world, you got to trust the people on the ground. And so, like to your point, it's like if somebody knows their program and they know that's what they need, then that's what they need.
And that's what they're focused on. Yeah. Exactly.
It's kind of interesting because the fact is RMCs that we do use a lot of the same suppliers. And so I'm from a buyer side point, it's if you guys use similar suppliers, then how can you really be differentiated? Do you want to take aim at that? Because it sounds like you just touched on that a little bit.
Yeah, I think so. A little bit of it is the fact that if clients or prospects were able to talk to the supplier base and say, hey, what do you think about NEI? The reaction they would get would go a long way, I think. But I think really it also stems back to what we spoke about earlier, and it's the relational part. Clients want to feel like they can basically say, okay, I've got a mobility partner. I don't have to worry about this. I can move on to something else. Because their role, some of them have strictly just a mobility role, but a lot of them are doing dual roles and dual tasks and several other things when it comes to some of the HR functions and things like that. So mobility might not be their primary role. So it's really helpful for them to have a partner that they can trust. And that's one less thing they have to worry about with everything else on their plate. In order for you to trust someone, you have to have a relationship. You have to know something about them, know how they operate. And I think that you're absolutely correct. We utilize a lot of the same suppliers, but I think we do that better than anybody as far as the way we view relationships. And I want to make it very painful for a client of ours to decide that they want to go out and look at something else. I want them to feel that. I want them to say, hey, if I'm looking at everything for the past 3 to 5 years, I've been with NEI and it has been absolutely fantastic. But I think I'm going to, grass might be greener over here. I want them to feel that anxiety around something like that because I haven't been with an RMC that viewed the relationship with their clients the way NEI does.
All right, so TJ, some about me you'll learn. If you've already listened to the podcast, you kind of already know. I'm a quote guy. I love my quotes. And I got a few for you that I kind of want your reaction to, all right? So Here's one from Eric Hofer. It says, in times of change, learners inherit the earth, while the learned find themselves beautifully equipped to deal with a world that no longer exists. So can you give me any examples from the past, whether in business, technology, culture, industry, where that was clearly true?
Yeah. Let me think. Again, in my 20 years, I've seen some things happen, of course, obviously. But before actual relocation, I was in real estate. I was around during the real estate crash. I was an active realtor at the time, and I knew enough about what I was seeing to know that there was a potential very, very big problem that would affect or impact my livelihood. But instead of really addressing it, I kind of buried my head in the sand and was hoping it would go away, hoping it was a cyclical thing and things like that. And it wound up being extremely devastating for me. I think that in order to be prepared for the shifts that life is going to throw at us in different phases of our life, we've got to recognize that we need to adjust and make changes sometimes. Sometimes we're resistant to change. And when it comes to changing, principles and things like that, I understand it. But life is going to do what life is going to do. And so we can ignore it and pretend like it's not happening, but we've got to be, I think, open to the possibility of needing to learn new things and accept things. Don't have to necessarily agree with them, but we can't pretend things aren't what they are.
I got another quote for you. Okay.
Sure.
So it says, the illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read and write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. So how does that resonate with your own career?
As I've grown up in the business the last 20 years and kind of seen different things, I'm a Gen Xer, man. So I come into things based on my experience, thinking that the world is a certain way. And so in this business where you meet so many different kinds of people from so many different walks of life, you need to be able and prepared to adjust your way of seeing things. Not necessarily your belief system, but how you see things, and recognize that other people may see things completely different, right? Doesn't mean that you're right or wrong or they're right or wrong. It's just that, we live in a world of gray sometimes, unfortunately. And, you've got to be able to accept the fact that that's the way it is, and really work to find the commonality that you can with other people as opposed to the differences.
In terms of learning those differences, continual learning, what does that mean to you personally?
I want to be the kind of person that whenever I engage with someone, we both leave that engagement better off. So whether it be, learning more about me or me learning more about them, or me appreciating the fact that I had a chance to meet someone new, the exchange for me is really important, because I think that I work at NEI and that's how I earn a wage. But the people that I meet, the experiences that I have engaging with people, that's how I earn a living. That's just real important to me.
We're big on learning. We want to learn what we can in order to advance. And so this is going to be just all about learning in the context of getting to know TJ Henderson, okay? All right, so first question, if you had a free year to master one thing, what would it be?
Probably AI.
AI, okay. Nice. What would you be
I need to learn more
building
about
something?
I need to learn. No. I need to learn how to, everybody's saying when it first came out, hey, the good, the bad. I need to figure it out so I can make sure that any aspect of it in my life is a positive thing. So I need to learn it.
Nice.
Not run from it.
All right. So next question. What skill do you wish schools taught but usually don't?
Schools, that's a good one. I think that interpersonal relationships.
How would you teach that if you were a professor?
Make people, talk. Shut your laptop, go get off your whatever it is, the electronic device you have. Let's sit down and talk. Let's sit down and engage each other and find out that, just because you have a different view than I have doesn't mean we can't figure out something to get along over. So, it's so easy right now. If you don't like something, you just don't deal with it, right? And, you just, I don't know, it just feels like you're missing out on things.
Yeah. That's crazy. I didn't think about that. I was thinking something like microeconomics, like personal finances or something like that, but I like your answer. I heard it said one time that, if you can understand what you believe, understand what your opponent believes, and then understand what your opponent believes about what you believe. Now that you have understanding,
Absolutely. I like that.
All right. So what's the last thing that you changed your mind about after learning more?
So I met a person at a regional event out in California. Really nice person. She was a speaker that the regional board had invited to come and kind of speak. Very nice lady. Got a chance to meet with her, spend some time with her, and I could tell that she was a very, we connected. We vibed just based on how our spirits were connected or whatever, right? So she invites me to this webinar thing that she's doing, right, on health and wellness, things like that. I thought, okay, well, I'm going to support her, right? So I sign up, and the day of the event, the first one, it's like 3 sessions, 3 separate days. The first session, within the first 5 minutes, I realized it was not something that I theologically agreed with. So I basically just dropped the call and didn't join the other sessions. But so once I learned about it, I completely changed my mind about it. And I still, the person, if I run into her again tomorrow, I'd be like, hey, I hope everything's going well and whatever. It's no big deal. I have nothing against her, but it's just that was not subject matter that I, was cool with. So
yeah, gotcha. All right. What's your favorite way to learn? Is it books, podcasts, courses, mentors? I feel like I know what you're going to pick, but experimentation or trial by fire?
I'm an experimental learner. So
okay.
I like, I find that, that's how I learn. That's how it sticks when I'm doing something or whatever. If I read something, unless I'm doing it, I got to go back and read it again. So, I like actually hands-on learning, doing it that way.
What's something that you used to be terrible at that you've become good at over time?
Public speaking.
Okay. Yeah, I think that.
Well, whether you figured it out or not, I am an introvert.
Yeah, I haven't. No.
But nobody knows that I'm an introvert because I've had to learn over the years how to not be.
I feel like TJ just volunteered for GPA speaker. What do you think?
Oh, wow.
Ben saying yeah.
I must have gave the wrong answer. Hey, no, man, I'll speak in front of anybody if I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Man, now it makes me feel bad like I made you come on the podcast the first day, All right, so do you schedule learning intentionally or does it kind of happen more organically for you?
I try to schedule it. This is another thing since you want to learn about me. I'm not as organized about things as I would like to be. I am it just organically happens for me. I would love to have, I envy those people who have calendars that's all laid out and it's, here at this time. I love that. I think I would be so much more efficient if I was able to do that, but that's not how my brain works.
Yeah.
And if I accepted the fact, I try to be more productive as far as productivity tools and things like that to help me with my days. But no, man, let's go. Let's do it. Let's figure it out. This feels good right now. Let's make it happen. That kind of thing.
I was reading these questions and I'm like, dude, I actually have to schedule time to stop learning, like
really?
Yeah.
Really?
I mean, like I feel like my mind is just made for insatiable curiosity. And
wow.
They're like, great, put him on the podcast, but like wow. That, I feel like that's why Sundays are so precious to me because it's like I actually have to tell myself, hey, like have a rest, you know what I mean? But I always got earbuds in. My wife's like, can you take those out? Like I'm like listening to all kinds of stuff. So
that's amazing.
Yeah. All right. So are you more motivated by curiosity or necessity when learning something new?
Really depends on what it is. Probably necessity. If I need to learn something, if I need to get, proficient in something, I feel like based on whatever I'm trying to tackle at that time, then I'll do it. But just curiosity. There's certain things that, just interest me. And I'll spend time kind of learning about those. But I try, to be honest with you, I try to make it, split it up 50-50. I mean, I still want to be curious and engaging things and learning things that I won't know about. But I mean, sometimes I get lazy and only go after those things that I have to know,
I think we're getting close to the finish. Okay. So
Cool.
what's a lesson that you learned late in life that you wish you knew earlier?
I wish I had known that it's really possible to impact people based on how you treat them. I didn't take every advantage that I could have taken when I was younger to make people feel valued. I was so busy. It's really just, it was just basically a selfish mentality. I mean, it's like it's a rat race. I've got to do this. I got to be successful here. I've got to do that. It's not like I stepped over people. It's just that I never took the time to really appreciate how important the relationships are, even if they're transactional. I think you get something out. It's a benefit to actually engage into someone else. You don't have to put all of your investment in them, but still just to show that they're valuable. I wish I'd learned that earlier.
Do you have anyone in mind that you would say this person learned that a lot earlier than I did?
My wife.
Hmm.
My wife, yeah. She's one of those, it's interesting. It's a whole other conversation, but I mean, she responds to her spirit. And so, she's much more open and receptive to things. On the other hand, I've had to learn that as I got older, to not blow off things.
What's a misconception people have about self-improvement versus lifelong learning?
Well, self-improvement is good. I mean, you always want to work on yourself. But then again, if self-improvement leads to, beating yourself up because you're not living up to what you think the world has determined you to be or what you're supposed to have, then it can actually become, like a noose around your neck, right? So, I mean, I guess self-improvement for the right things and the right reasons and for the right people is fine. But I'd rather do the lifelong learning. I think I want my mind to work well enough that if something happens or is interesting, I want to be able to acknowledge it and appreciate it as I see it happening.
Yeah. I feel like lifelong learning feels more like a posture to me, right? Versus like self-improvement feels like a quick fix sometimes. I feel like the self-help section at the bookstore or something like that, if people still go to bookstores anymore, it's almost like, how to fix this about you right now, how to fix that about you right now, versus like lifelong learning. It just seems like this is just, it's more a part of you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, this is who I am, so.
Agreed.
All right. Last question. What's one thing AI is changing about how we learn?
For me, I can only speak for me. AI, I will have thoughts. I'll have messages that I want to convey in a certain way. But it's like, I'm like Moses. Sometimes I'm slow of tongue, right? But there are things I want to be able to say and communicate and get my point across in a certain way. And for me, AI has been incredible for me to be able to do that, right? So it's not like I'm coming up with something that's not genuine or authentic. It's just the way I'm delivering it allows me to say what I want to say. Mm-hmm. So I haven't even scratched the surface of some of the other things, but to be honest with you, I'm a communicator, and I like connecting people. That's for some reason I just get enjoyment out of that. So the fact that I'm able to articulate and communicate with people in a way that they can get a good idea of where my heart is from the start, I like that. I like being able to do that.
Thank you so much, TJ, for coming on. Really enjoyed having you and appreciate you giving your perspective, kind of going back and forth. And I'm very glad that you could join us.
Thanks for having me, Zach. I really appreciate it.
That was another episode of Relocation Leader. Make sure you like us on LinkedIn, follow us, and we'll see you guys back in 2 weeks. Take care.